Okay, thank you for introduction. It's my pleasure to be here today. Before we officially start, there are several things may need your attention. Okay. First, this is not a serious academic lecture. Second, welcome to leave your answers, questions, or comments during the lecture in the chat box. The last but not least, make sure you have dinner. You already have dinner, or you can prepare some snack with you, as you wish. Okay, because you're gonna be, I hope you will feel hungry. Okay, so what is Chinese food? Think about your typical Chinese restaurant here in the US. What's on the menu? It's like things like Panda Experience, the orange chicken, or the spring rolls. So first pop question, what Chinese food have you eaten? Yeah, you can type your answer in the chat box. And second, what other Chinese foods do you know? Okay, welcome to type your answers in chat box and let me know. You know the orange chicken, the food I mentioned before, those dishes all come from just one part of China. Oh, I see. Oh, can I see the? Yeah. Why? I cannot see the chat box. Okay.
I can read it out. Someone typed orange chicken.
Orange chicken, yeah, I mentioned, yeah, orange chicken, the broccoli beef, right? The stir fried noodles, and do you know all those dishes all come from just one part of China? Okay, so definitely Chinese food is much more than just the broccoli beef, the orange chicken, the stir fries, or the dumplings. So today I'm going to take you on a journey through China to see authentic Chinese food region by region. Okay. So as I said, Chinese food is much more than just stir fries. Up to the last decade or so, Chinese food in the US haven't been very diverse, but China itself is in its geography, climate, culture, and consequently, its food. Honestly, it's so difficult to categorize Chinese food. China is huge and large, and the climate, ingredients, history, and the dining custom vary from place to place, leading the difference in cooking method and dish flavor and forming the different cuisines. So for simplicity's sake, before the okay. So here, the Chinese food can be broken down into many different categories. The most influential and typical known by the public are the 8 Chinese cuisine. 8大菜系. And of course, the Chinese cuisine has more than 8 categories. But today, for simplicity's sake, especially considering their international reach, we will just talk about certain regions' cuisine which have become dominant instead of all the cuisine in this region. So here is the main content of today's lecture. Firstly, I will do simple introduction to Chinese food by 4 regions. And then we will zoom into Southern Chinese food and the Southwest Sichuan food. And the last, if we have time, I will give you some recommendation to some authentic Chinese restaurant here, in Chicago. Okay, here we go. So this is our breakdown for regional Chinese cuisines. We divided China into 4 regions: North, South, East, and West. Generally speaking, China has 2 main carbs, wheat and rice, and their prevalence follows the North-South divided. Rice requires a lot of water, and the South gets plenty of it, with more rain on average than the North. Therefore, rice is consumed more in the South, and the North specialized in wheat because it doesn't need all that much water. In the South, you will see a lot of wheat noodle dishes and quite a bit buns. In the South, you will see a lot of fried rice noodles, and rice noodle rolls. Okay, here, yeah. So, generally speaking, the food in the North, here refers to the north to Yellow River. Because of the cold climate, it's heavy on meat and carbs. Leafy greens are harder to find here. Only potato, egg, plants, onions, and cabbage tend to be the plants of the choice. Meat is dominant in the North, especially beef and lamb. And because it's a wheat-heavy region, noodles, buns, and dumplings are everywhere in the North. You will see dishes like lamb dumplings and the beef noodles soup. So there you have it. Yeah, if you like noodles, went to the North. The southern seaboard is rich. It's rich with the seafood. The southeast, including Guangdong province, and Hong Kong and Macau, is home to Cantonese food. And the region around the Yangtze River Delta in the east, are teeming with river and are teeming with the water, with the freshwater fish and the crustaceans. Above this is the east. Among the 4 regional cuisine, it is the sweetest. Fish is deep fried. The fish is deep fried and laden with sweet and sour sauce, and the pork ribs are coated with soy sauce and sugar. Its proximity to a large network of waterways has earned it the moniker land of fish and rice. That is east. The crustacean, yeah. So the freshwater fish and the crustacean tends to dominate the menu in the east. And it happens to the home of soup dumplings, or 小笼包, or stir fries, 扬州炒饭. Okay, at last is the west, here west. In the west, the tropical southwest is last with the vegetables. The fresh greens are abundant here, and the flavor profile is spicy and numbing. Okay, so the above is very simple breakdown to the four most dominant regions of Chinese cuisine. Okay, coming up, because the time limit, we will doing a much deeper dive into southern and west south only to see more about their respective cuisines. Let's zoom into the first part, southern Chinese food. Okay, so back to the question, think about the Chinese restaurant here in the US, what's on the menu. It's likely themes. Yeah, it's likely themes like chop suey, lao mian, and the dumplings, not dumplings, huntun. These dishes all come from this area. And why? Do you know why the Cantonese food is becoming so popular in US? Okay, here's a quick history lesson.
A quick history.
Okay, maybe it's not that fluently.
A quick history lesson. The first wave of Chinese immigrants in America came from Toisan, or Taisan, to California, fleeing poverty and war. They worked as laborers, and because of housing discrimination, were forced to settle in urban slums now known as Chinatowns. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act denied them citizenship and prohibited even more immigration from China. With the limited ingredients available to them, they invented rustic comfort food dishes like egg foo young and fried wontons. In 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act abolished exclusions previously set against Asian immigrants. In 1972, a realtor named Fred Shea began heavily advertising the San Gabriel Valley in Hong Kong and Taiwanese newspapers. He called it the Chinese Beverly Hills. And in came a steady stream of middle to upper class immigrants from Hong Kong and Taiwan, who were leaving Asia in droves. These immigrants had more spending power than their Toisan counterparts. And the San Gabriel Valley, a suburban enclave in Los Angeles County, became home to one of the most robust Chinese food scenes outside of Asia.
And the first authentic Hong Kong-style restaurants come to San Gabriel Valley in the mid-70s, and they kind of gradually, more and more of them open.
In the early 2000s, mainland China became wealthier, bringing in a wave of immigrants to Los Angeles with more refined regional Chinese specialties.
Okay, so now I hope you know, years ago, during that time, a lot of Americans thought Chinese food actually just meant Cantonese food. And why? Because many Chinese people immigrated to the US during the California Gold Rush. As many the immigrants just came from Guangdong, Cantonese cuisine became popular in the US. So what is Cantonese food, or what's the feature? Okay, so here is the southern, southern east of Cantonese area. So first, we were talking about the climate. The subtropical climate means abundant rainfall here, making it an ideal place to grow crops. And the main river here is the Pearl River. The floods seasonally, which especially good for growing one crop, that is rice. The rice is the king in this part of China and requires flooded fields to grow. Because of the power of the delta area, it created a lot of mud floods on this side. So those are very rich farming cultivation grounds for rice, vegetable, and different kinds of animals as well. And how about the future of Cantonese cuisine? the flavor profile here tends to be mild, natural, and sweet. Or we can say, if give me one word, that would be 五妈咪. 五妈咪 in Chinese, it's 鲜. Because its proximity to the sea, so there are lots of seafood. And all Cantonese food had some umami flavor. That is in part because of all the sauce available, such as fermented bean sauce and shrimp paste. And it's also this area is the birthplace of oyster sauce and hoisin sauce. And people, while every part of China has its own roasted meat, Cantonese people, Cantonese barbecue is especially sweet. And people here is really good at making sweet barbecued meat. This is a Cantonese style sweet barbecued meat jerky. Those meats are often glazed with sugar and dried. Okay, when speaking of Cantonese food, we cannot skip. The next one is diansen, a class of small bunch bites powered by steam. Because this access to fresh ingredients, steaming is the preferred method of cooking because it brings out the ingredients' natural flavor. Almost all diansen dishes are powered by steam. For diansen especially, the bamboo steamer are preferred. And diansen, normally, most of them are generally salty, sweet, and umami. So these three flavors make up with diansen. But it's not just diansen that umami. On the street, the fresh fish balls are the common snack. Made with the pulverized fish meat. Okay, so of all Chinese cuisine, Cantonese is the most visible international, in part because of the Cantonese-speaking immigrants were the first to move out and settle in the West. These immigrants use ingredients available to them and that evolve into the Chinese-American comfort foods we know. For example, the fried wonton and the beef broccoli, we know and love today. But if you want authentic Cantonese food, there's no better place than the source. Okay, so where are the best places to eat in this region? Okay, next we will follow the local guide and go on a food tour of Hong Kong. And during we enjoy the video, please leave your comment or questions anytime. Okay, so here we go. Can you see the video? No? Okay, how about now? 可以吗？
可以。
Okay.
Welcome to Hong Kong, one of the most expensive cities in the world. Located on the southern coast of China, this city was once a fishing village. Today, it is a bustling financial hub where life never slows down. Small diners and food stalls are everywhere to serve busy people on the go. You'll find them serving dishes from sunrise to late into the night. The food here is a blend of Chinese and European influences, owing to Hong Kong's British colonial legacy. The dishes are simple, fast, and full of flavor. It's a blend of old and new, high-end restaurants next to mom-and-pop shops. Some have been making the same dishes for generations. You'll find roast goose hanging by windows, egg noodles made by pounding dough with bamboo, pineapple buns baked fresh every morning, and bouncy fish balls made with local fish. To get an inside look, we met up with Ashley, a Hong Kong food guide, who took us to some of her favorite places.
When you go to Hong Kong, we're very proud of our food culture here. Everyone will tell you like, oh, this is the best place for wonton noodles, or this is the best place for beef briskets.
That's for you.
Very like, almost a little bit obsessive about it. When we like to line up for food and we associate food with people, it's just part of our cultural identity. And we love to eat and we're pretty damn proud of that. My name is Ashley Yu and I'm the founder of Hong Kong Food Crawlers. So I was born and raised in Hong Kong and I also study in the UK and Canada. When I was young, I used to go to the market with my mom a lot, especially after school. She'll get her groceries for the day. So in Hong Kong, it's very typical for people to buy groceries on a daily basis. The first 1 to 2 floors is usually just for buying groceries. The veggies, the fruits, the butchers, the seafood. And then upstairs we have the food court. The reason why locals really like those restaurants is because it's so cheap and it's affordable, and people who run the food business there, they've been doing that their whole life.
Even though it's a modern city, traditional wet markets are still a big part of Hong Kong life. Every neighborhood has one. They used to be outdoors on the street, but most have been moved indoors.
For breakfast, I really like to go to Soki at Tai Po Cook Food Center. Soki's menu is basically a classic Hong Kong diner menu. What I usually have is Hong Kong style French toast. In the middle of the toast, they put a layer of the kaya jam, which is a coconut milk spread. On a hot day, I like to have the preserved salted lime with 7-Up. The lime is preserved in a jar of just salt and lime. In Hong Kong, one of the most staple classic drinks is called Hong Kong milk tea. It's also called Lai Cha in Cantonese. But if you add it with condensed milk, it's called Cha Zhao. I would say back in the days, people are very simple. In Hong Kong, it's all about going to the diner, and people are more easily satisfied back in the days. Versus now, I feel like a lot of the younger generation kind of prefer something that's more Instagrammable. For lunch, I like to go to Kwan Gate. All they sell is beef brisket. I usually have the beef brisket with rice noodles. The essence of this dish, I would say, is the broth of the noodles. Because their beef brisket is so fresh and the flavor is so nice, the broth is very condensed. You can actually drink it. The old diners these days is not as popular as it used to be. It's just really sad because a lot of the times the owners are getting older. They don't have anyone to take care of their business. This kind of restaurant, the outdoor restaurant, is a dying breed in Hong Kong. The government started taking the licenses back in 1970s. They realized it's getting a little bit too out of control. There's too many of these outdoor restaurants. Dai Pai Don in Cantonese, translated, it means big license stall. Dai Pai means big license. The restaurant's license that we're giving out by the government to the restaurant owners is it's a piece of paper that is as big as your face. At Dai Pai Don, the tables and the kitchen are all on the street. So the one that I really like is called Oi Man Sun. Current owner, who have the license, is a granny who's around 86 years old. She still goes to the restaurant to check on, how her son and her grandkids are like running the restaurants and making sure everything is good. So at the classic Dai Pai Don, they would have clay pots with eggplants and stir-fried clams with black bean sauce and onions. The salted calamari is a good one. Hong Kong used to be a fishing village and, people in Hong Kong grew up eating seafood. I'm really hoping that our traditional food culture can survive. Even though it's a little bit hard, but I do see some hope. Right now, we really need younger people to join the food industry. But unfortunately, I feel like there's a stigma about making food in Hong Kong in certain ways. For me, with my work at Hong Kong Food Crawlers, I want to preserve their stories and the flavors of their food through my food tours. Even for me, I tell my guests, if you come back in 10 years, this might not be here anymore.
Okay, welcome back, and welcome to sharing, for example, what's your most impressive food in this video, and what would you like to try if you have chance to visit Hong Kong? Okay, let's back to okay, so this is the Hong Kong food tour. Then let's move on. Over in the west, we have a large area that's known for its subtropical climate, pandas, and spicy food. Do you know where is it? Another clues are the hot pot, spicy noodle, and mapo tofu all come from this area. Okay, that's it. The southwest corner of China, which is known for its affinity for spice. Hey, can you see the PowerPoint? Why it stopped? Okay.
Oh. Yes, we can.
Okay. So now we are focused on the food of Sichuan and Chongqing. Sichuan and Chongqing. Sichuan and Chongqing, actually, they are on the southwest corridor of China. They used to be part of the same province, but in 1997, Chongqing became its own municipality because they are huge population. But still, they share the same food culture. Sichuan has a very high population. Before we split with Chongqing, we had more than 100 million people. So there is a joke that 1 out of every 50 people in the world eat Sichuan food. What Sichuan and Chongqing have in common is their love for spicy and numbing things. In Chinese, 麻辣. So 麻辣 translates to numbing. 麻 is numbing, and 辣 is spicy. That's made possible by peppercorns and chili peppers. The former is native to China. Yeah. And Sichuan also the home of the peppercorn, and a Chinese spice that's literally numb to the tongue. And the latter, the chili pepper, the latter came to China while South America in the 19th century by Portuguese trader. But why the Sichuan and Chongqing people are here fascinated with mala? The locals say that's because of the geography. Sichuan sits in a basin, so it gets quite humid. And people believe the food, the spicy food we eat helps draw out extra moisture from the body. Okay, so let's look at the Sichuan food. In Sichuan cuisine, the peppercorn is widely used like the peppercorn flour. People will smash them like flour and used in typical Sichuan cuisine like small crispy meat and the famous 麻婆豆腐. And also, people will make peppercorn oil in classic Sichuan cuisine, like the water-boiled fish, the water-boiled meat. This is the peppercorn oil. Except for peppercorn, the fermented hot sauce, like 郫县豆瓣, is very common in Sichuan cuisine. 郫县豆瓣made with aged boiled beans with chili. These pungent flavors are the hallmark of Sichuan cuisine. And or we can say 郫县豆瓣 is essential to make a Sichuan cuisine, like twice cooked pork slice and the gongbao chicken or gongbao pork. Anyway, the 郫县豆瓣 is essential. And do you know Sichuan food is also very heavy on salt because this place or this city, Zigong, Zigong was an epic center of salt production in China. At one point, the city supplied a third of all salt consumed in China. And what's the function of salt? In Chinese cuisine, the salts are also used for preservation. And in Sichuan, almost every family has this. A large pickle pot filled to the brim with seasonal vegetable. People do quick fermentation and semi-fermentation to make pickles with salt or water. And because Sichuan cuisine is so heavy on spice, oil, and meat, so to balance it out, Sichuan people eat pickles. A lot of pickles, which is why you will find a lot of fermented vegetables in Sichuan cuisine. You will see it served as appetizer or served on the side or cooked into a dish. This is my favorite, the boiled fish with the pickled cabbage and chili. 酸菜鱼. And moreover, when we're talking about Sichuan cuisine, this area is also the capital of hot pot, which is a part of spicy broth, where the ingredients are cooked tableside. In fact, Chongqing is the capital of hot pot, where are over 10,000 shops dedicated to this dish. Tripe, this is tripe. Tripe and other types of often are especially loved as hot pot ingredients, mostly because it is cheap in the past. In fact, in Chongqing, there are markets dedicated to selling things for hot pot restaurant, and it opened at 9 and closed early in the morning. And the leafy greens are another staple for the hot pot table. And this region is full of them. And this is a land of plenty of vegetables are abundant in Chengdu because of an irrigation system called Dujiangyan. The Dujiangyan is an ancient irrigation system in Dujiangyan City, Sichuan, originally constructed around 256 BC by the state of Qing, and as an irrigation and flooded control project. It is still in use today. Well, next, it's time for us to follow the local guide to learn more about Chengdu food culture, as well as the food in Chongqing. And same, you can leave your question or comments in the chat box anytime.
To really understand Sichuan food, one has to go to the capital, Chengdu. Located in the Sichuan Basin, Chengdu is flanked by mountains on all sides. The land is fertile and the climate is warm and wet. Jenny Gao, a chef who grew up in Chengdu, tells us more.
My name is Jenny Gao, and I've been exploring Chinese food as a writer and cook for the last 10 years. I was born in this town here, right outside of Chengdu. Because the land is so fertile, because of the warm and wet climate, I felt like in the West, people knew Sichuan food as just the stereotypical extremes, like the diabolic heat or the face-numbing spice. My parents and I moved away from China when I was about 5, but we would come back every couple of years or so to visit my grandparents. I think as an outsider coming into Sichuan, it's easy to caricaturize these extremes and miss the subtleties that are underneath. Food was such a visceral thing that I could grab onto and explore through my senses. Fly restaurants are an iconic fixture of Chengdu's food scene. I feel like it's really at the heart and soul of the food culture because it is all about home-cooked food with big flavors. The term is given by locals to places that are usually hole in the walls, usually hidden, hard to find, with zero atmosphere and questionable hygiene. This restaurant has been here for several decades now. The food is wheeled out from the kitchen. This dish is like the most famous dish here because the name is like Chenming Liangfen. And Liangfen being mung bean noodles, this is their signature dish. And it's super simple. One side is like mung bean, one side is yellow split pea. So that's the color difference. But the most important part is that the flavor is delicious. It's so good that it keeps people coming like flies. And so that's sort of a nod to the self-deprecating humor of the Chengdu people. And also just that flavor trumps everything. It doesn't matter what the environment is as long as the food is delicious. You know, modern day Chengdu, when things have changed so quickly, people of all socioeconomic backgrounds are still coming to the same fly restaurants and sharing a table on the sidewalk with like broken stools and are still able to enjoy a delicious meal together. And that's the spirit of Sichuan, I think, embodied. I hope that I can draw more attention to Sichuan's amazing food culture because it is cooked in homes and like on the street. It's like street food. It's full of soul.
If Chengdu is known for soul food, then Chongqing is the spicier cousin. Here, the pace of life is a lot faster and the flavors are just as intense. Unlike Chengdu, which is relatively flat, Chongqing is built on mountains. These tunnels were built as bomb shelters during World War II. Today, they house restaurants and other businesses. To explore this massive city, we enlisted Anne, a Chongqing local, to take us around.
重庆就算没有来过、没有吃过、没有见过，那一定知道，在重庆里面哈，有一种美食叫做火锅，就是它有一种莫名的可以吸引你的感觉。然后，但是呢，重庆的美食不止于火锅，所以的话，我就是这次也想带你们去尝试更多不一样好吃的美食。总体来说的话，重庆的美食就是属于那种偏辣和香，但是它也会有一些麻进去。如果是重庆的小吃的话呢，那绝对是吃脏摊。然后你看着可能环境不是特别好，但是呢味道绝对是一流的。Hello， 大家好，我是猫所长。以前是记者，然后编辑编导那样子，就变成了一个搞演出行业的策划，然后最后又变成了一个旅行定制师。我是绝对是土著，我跟你讲，这个是从我记事以来，后来他们那么一丁点小的时候，那个阿姨从小看着我长大，但是那个阿姨很神奇，你知道吗？她只卖一种粉，就是牛羊开胃粉，字面意思。他们用的那个食材，每一个部分都是他们自己纯手工，每一天新鲜的去制作的。就像他们家特别提味的，就是咸菜，然后还有他们的汤头，然后还有他们的那个米粉。我的天哪，那个米粉真的是我吃过的全世界最好吃的米粉，绝对超越我对火锅的热爱。但是呢，重庆有好多这种真的是特别脏的脏摊了，就十里飘香，因为它就藏在这样的一个人来人往的地下通道里面。我们就过去吃了，吃了之后果然不负众望。然后它这里就是可以自己拿一个篮子，拿一个盘子，然后去夹自己喜欢吃的菜什么的。那这个就比火锅方便很多了呀，因为它可以选择的面很广啊，它又很便宜，你就可以选很多可以吃。现在我们在纯阳老酒馆，哎呦我的天呐，他们30年的老店呢，就一直坐落在这个地方。主要它这个地方的酒特别出名，然后我们就点了满满一桌辅佐酒的那种小菜，一定要给你们推荐。第一个呢 就是晾干毛肚。那个晾干毛肚就是属于它的那个毛肚的品质特别好，和它的那个调料特别香。然后再推荐2个凉菜，就是我从小就特别喜欢吃，但是不是每一个人都能接受的。它的名字叫做折耳根。其实我以前对重庆没有那么了解，因为有可能你最熟悉，就是反而是你最陌生的一个环境。如果大家以后来重庆的话，一定要听我的建议。重庆本来是属于它那种外表就是夜色光鲜亮丽之下的另外一面，觉得很棒，所以来重庆就一定要多去走一走，吃一吃。
Okay, we stop here. And okay, so welcome back. And how's your feeling now? What would you want to try if you have chance to went to China, or especially in Hong Kong or Sichuan, Chongqing, Chengdu? So what dishes give you most impressive feelings? So welcome to sharing in the chat box. And do you feel regret not being able to go to China now to taste it by yourself? And don't worry. So the last part, I'm going to do some recommendation about the Chinese restaurant I went to be, and I feel it's authentic. So it's in Chicago. Most of it is in Chicago. And it's not commercial. They didn't pay me at all. So it's just a personal experience. And I can guarantee you all of them, I personally taste it. And I also can give yourself recommendation about the dish. But now it's just the restaurant. Okay, so the first is the recommendation about the Cantonese food. The Cantonese food. So the one is called Minghin cuisine. It's very specialized in dim sum. So they are very good at making dim sum. And the other place is Grand Palace. They are specialized in Cantonese home style cuisine. So you can try more about Cantonese cuisine, not just the dim sum. So if you want to try dim sum, you try the right one. And if you want to try the home style Cantonese food, then go to the Grand Palace. Okay, so this is the Cantonese restaurant in Chicago. And the second is about the Sichuan cuisine. There are 2 Sichuan restaurants. It's authentic, so you can try many Sichuan snack. In the first one, 大毛家, and the Sichuan cuisine in the 川渝小厨. And the last, now it's the winter. So for Chinese people, the winter is season for hot pot. So there are 2 restaurants very good at making Chongqing hot pots. They are hot pots. There are several hot pots in China, but we are talking about Sichuan Chongqing hot pot. So I highly recommend the Qiaoling hot pot. I've been to there, I think almost once a month. Because I'm not living in Chicago. I need to drive 2.5 hours to went to Chicago just for the Qiaoling hot pot. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, this is some recommendation if you want to try some authentic, not just American style Chinese food. You can went to the Chicago and pick any one of it, and I believe you won't disappoint. Okay, so it's almost the time, and I want to leave some minutes for you guys. Do you have any questions? I can't. Why? I can't see the chat box.